Good evening, this is Fonti International and I'm Alexandra Georgieva. Welcome to our show on Wednesday evening. We are going to talk about equity markets, and in the second part of the show we are going to have a particular focus on the energy stocks because there are some important stories of the day regarding the energy stocks. But of course we're also going to talk about the top stories of the day and all the market movers. US-Sino trade talks continue. Both sides are very eager to find a deal and get over divergences. Tomorrow the Secretary of US Treasury Steven Mnuchin is going to meet with the Chinese Vice Premier Liu He. According to South China Morning Post, Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, will meet personally the US delegation led by Steven Mnuchin. It really looks like a takeover moment because, it's the first time that the Chinese president is going to meet the US delegation. And on the other side, President Donald Trump said at a cabinet session yesterday that he was willing to push back a March 1 deadline for a trade agreement if ongoing talks between the US and China appear to be moving along. So let's have a look at the US markets. How are they reacting on those news? Because already in Europe we had an amazing trading session, but we're going to be back on that in a few seconds. As we can see, US markets are also performing pretty well. S&P 500 is up by 0.18, Dow by 0.30 and Nasdaq by 0.29, which is almost 0.30. They started even higher at the very beginning of the US trading session, but currently they are still in the green, all of them. So as we can see, pretty positive reaction for third consecutive day. Let's move to the FANGs. Facebook is up by 0.24. Apple is trading down by 0.05. Not really huge negative result, but still it's slightly under the neutral territory. Amazon is up by 0.55. Netflix down by 0.87. Google up by 0.61. Snapchat is up by 4.03. It's extremely volatile stock in the last period because we've seen it several days ago. Also yesterday it was trading in the red territory. It was in the red. Today it's rallying up by 4.03%. So have a look always at this stock. Microsoft, which is part of the old techs, is up by 0.10%. Let's move to the banking sector. So far, the banking sector, the US banking sector have performed pretty well today. JP Morgan is up by 0.65, Bank of America also up by 0.31, and Goldman up by 0.82%. Also, Morgan Stanley is up by 0.46. So as we can see, all the major US banks are trading in the green territory. Let's move to the energy stocks. As I said in the second part of our show, we are really going to focus on the energy stocks. They are mostly trading in the green territory. Exxon is up by 0.58, Chevron by 0.37. On the other side, Duke Mobile is trading down by 0.73. Here I would like to mention that there is data from the United States. SPI increased 1.6% and 1.9% year over year. Core SPI rose 2.2% for a third straight month. So as we can see, we can deduce that at the end, the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, monetary policy is very sufficient so far, at least. Let's move to the automotive sector. Starting from Tesla, is down by 1.68 right now. Daimler up by 1.14. Ford is down by 0.59. FCA up by 1.57. And let's have a look at the Nissan. Yesterday it reported data and slashed outlook for 2019, but as we can see, the stock is rebounding because yesterday it closed in the red. but today it's up by 3.49%. Let's have a look at the European stock exchanges. We had a pretty positive trading session. The European stock 600 closed up by 0.63%, with all the major bourses in the green, as we can see, except actually IBEX, the Spanish stock exchange. There is a reason, but we are going to talk about a little bit later. Let's have a look at the numbers. DAX closed up by 0.37, CAC also by 0.35, FTSE MIB by 0.93. I would like to point out that FTSE MIB is closing as the best performer among the European stocks, among the European bourses for third consecutive day. Excellent performance of the Italian stock exchange. I repeat, up by 0.93%. FTSE 100 on the other side is up by 0.81, and the Spanish index, as I've mentioned a few seconds ago, is slightly under the neutral territory, down by 0.01%. But let's have a look at the single stocks. Talking about single stocks, actually, Europe's basic resources were, with their actually heavy exposure to China, were the top performers, up by almost 2%, as investors grew increasingly hopeful of a resolution to the US-Sino trade spat. Travel and leisure was another top gaining sector amid earnings news. Sweden's Kindred Group reported an all-time high in active customers in the fourth quarter of 2018. Shares of the Stockholm listed stock rose by 7.5%. Let's have a look also at the German stocks. Looking at individual stocks from German point of view, Osram Leaks shot up to the top of the stock 600 in late afternoon trade after confirming a report that it had held talks with the Bain Capital and Carlyle Group over a potential joint takeover. Shares surged more than 14%, but the stock to watch that I would like to propose you is definitely, I'm going to show you now, the ABN AMRO Group. The ABN tumbled to the bottom of the index, as we can see, minus 7.72%. The Dutch bank reported fourth quarter earnings results way below expectations on Wednesday, as loan impairments jumped. Shares of the company, as we can see, sunk more than 7%. I would like to go to the data front, because British inflation fell to a two-year low in January, slipping below the Bank of England target in the process. Official data showed UK consumer prices rose to an annual rate of 1.8% in January, following a 2.1% increase at the end of last year. Elsewhere, regarding the Eurozone, industrial production was weaker than expected in December. Official estimates published Wednesday showed a drop in the output of capital goods contributed to a 0.9% fall month-on-month and 4.2% fall year-on-year. But despite those facts, we saw the major European bourses really rallying for a third consecutive day, which is pretty exceptional, because we did not have such a rally for several weeks, maybe even months, if I must be honest. Not a positive news coming from Spain, because Spain's parliament rejected the government's 2019 draft budget today, bringing the country to the brink of a snap national election. Sources in the government and the Socialist Party of Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez told Reuters that a defeat over the budget would trigger an early announcement of a snap election, with April 14 or April 28 among possible dates. The Socialists hold less than a quarter of the seats in parliament and needed support from smaller regional parties, including the Catalans, to get the budget proposal voted through. But the Catalan parties, on the other side, unhappy with the government's refusal to consider or discuss, amongst the other issues, an independence referendum for their northeastern region, voted against it, as did the center-right and the Conservatives. In all, 191 lawmakers voted against the budget and 158 in favor, with one abstention. Political sources said earlier today it was not clear yet when the snap election would be announced. The Spanish stocks, as we've seen, edged lower, and also Spanish government bond yield spread over safer Germany widened after the vote. I'm going to show you. Here is the 10-year Spanish bond. It's the yield is at 1.230 minus 1.05%, and on the other side, IBEX closed down by 0.01%, which is not extremely negative result at the end. It's slightly under the neutral territory. Nothing so scary, but right now is joining me Jan Ergas, Chief Economist at Tigris Financial Partners. Good evening, Jan, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Good evening.
Well, Jan, as you've heard, I guess it's a pretty complicated situation currently in Europe, but I would like to go back to the United States because there is so much going on there. First of all, I would like to start with the U.S.-China lawmakers deal, with the U.S. lawmakers deal that would include $1.38 billion for 55 miles of modern physical barriers along the border with Mexico. But here is the thing, I would like to point out that Trump demanded 5.7 billion. It's extremely huge difference in the numbers. Do you think Trump is going to sign the deal?
Well, look, it's an extremely complex question. I think there's 2 points here. The first is, what does this agreement between Democrats and Republicans show? It shows that both sides, at least at the legislative level, want a deal. The Republicans do not want to be held responsible for another government shutdown, which cost us $11 billion, not all of which will be reversed in later inflows. The Democrats do not want to make people believe that they are a party which is opposed to border security. So they also want to win back votes from the Trump camp. They lost because they lost areas which previously had voted Democratic. So this is an electoral campaign thing. So both sides want to compromise, and this is the positive aspect of it, is that the two parties, when they need to, at the Congress level, can work together. Now, will Trump sign? This puts us into two questions. He signs, everything is smooth. He doesn't sign, what happens? If he doesn't sign, I believe there could be more demands down the road. This is the art of the deal. The other side thinks they've closed it, and you suddenly say, I'm not signing unless you give me this. A bit rough, but this is how many operate, okay? Let's say he doesn't sign. I still do not see a shutdown as the most likely, but possibly a temporary arrangement and then an agreement. I think this is how it looks like right now. Anything can happen. I believe that the U.S. public will look upon it very badly if there is another shutdown, which will act as an incentive, and therefore I'm putting my money on a plus demands, last minute, but 55 to 60% signing.
Right, Jean, on the other side, there are talks between the US and China that really impacted extremely positive the stock exchanges. They are all trading higher already for several days. And the thing to point out here is that according to South China Morning Post, Xi Jinping is going to personally meet the US delegation that is led by Steven Mnuchin, the US Secretary of the Treasury. So here is my question. Do you think that here they are really going for a trade deal?
Look, there's 2 points here. First, the optimism all seems to be on the American side. We have not heard these declarations from the Chinese side. And as they say, it takes two to dance the tango. And now we have only one dancer telling us everything is great. On the other side, we have heard very little. Two, I believe that we have to look at what a deal is. A deal is a deal about merchandise trade. Merchandise trade equals exchange of goods, equals old economy, equals follow cycle, equals do not create cycle. What is the real issue? The real issue is technology, control of intellectual property equals creation of cycle, equals economic leadership. Two countries can have balanced trade, and one can become much poorer very quickly. Balanced trade does not equal wealth. Balanced trade does not equal overall GDP growth. What I think is going to happen? There's going to be some very generic declaration on promises or semi-commitments to buy more for example, commodity goods, which are very volatile in price. But the really big issue, which is the intellectual property, will be left aside for future discussion, and then Trump will come out and declare victory. So why is Trump doing all this? Because there is pressure now from the agricultural businesses who are losing business fast and cannot wait. Agriculture is low value-added, commodity replaceable. They cannot put up a long fight, and they are electorally very important. I expect very little from this whole process, and I will not be surprised if there's a disappointment.
Well, Jean, you are right. On the other side, U.S. markets are rallying for a third consecutive days, but not only them, also the Asian and also the European. How long do you think this is going to last? I mean, this rally?
Look, I'm not saying the markets should not rally. I am not saying the market, I think are rallying also on Federal Reserve, quote-unquote, basis. The markets are rallying on the possibility of the closing of the political gap in the U.S. The markets may be rallying because individual sectors may appear undervalued. But I do believe that if there's a disappointment on this thing, this could be a deal breaker. I don't say that the markets will collapse. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that people will reallocate between different sectors. I think people are getting a bit ahead of themselves on the trade issue. They don't understand all the consequences.
Well, I think the trade issues are extremely important. As we've seen, most of the major economies had worse performance because of the trade issues, actually. Here is the thing. I would like to go to Europe because we also have many things going on in Europe, starting with the ECB. Because President Mario Draghi ends his 8-year mandate in October, and the market players are anxious to know what direction the central bank will take when his tenure finishes. European officials have told CNBC that a French candidate is well placed to get the top job, but much depends on the upcoming European elections and the subsequent distribution of roles across the EU. I would like to show you the two possible candidates. There are two possible French names circulating in European corridors. Benoit Cœur is one of them. I hope we can see the photo our gallery is going to show in a while. He is, this is the guy, as I said, he's a French economist and currently serves as a member of the executive board of the ECB. And the second one is François Villeroy de Galhau, who is France's current central bank governor. This is the guy, as we can see from the photo. Both have said they would be keen to succeed Draghi if asked, according to Bloomberg. So here is my question. Considering these two names for a possible candidate, there is not really much time. We know that ECB cannot decide this. They are all the European parliamentarians that are going to decide this. But in case of a French head of the ECB, do you think the monetary policy is going to take a completely different direction?
Well, look, I think first of all, the monetary policy, and I say this half humorously, will not favor Italy. Okay, let's put it this way. I mean, with everything that's been going on, with the political and diplomatic difficulties there have been, they will be very strict with anybody who seems to be strained from the budget norm. Okay, so I think that that will be the first point. Second point, I believe they will be more conservative and they will stick more to the plan to actually tighten than to actually loosen. There's two things you can do in this situation. You can tighten, you can loosen, or you can stay the same. Germany tightens. Italy, in this case, will loosen. I think France will not want to sacrifice its relationship with Germany on different levels, and therefore will be more inclined to tightening.
Well, true, but France, I think, is going to be the next country that is going to need, urgent help. So.
Yes. I think so. I think you're right. I think France, look, let's put it this way. I think the French are very good at criticizing others. They're very bad at doing it themselves. Excuse me if I make this though it's not badly meant. There's a lot of moralism. France is a country which repeatedly broke through all the divisive rules and then shouted at Italy that had broken through the divisive rules. But I do believe that, in fact, France is not, at this point, in the same risk category as Italy. Quite frankly, at least not seen so by the markets. And I do not believe that they are going to be, they may tighten less than Germans might have done, but there will not be this loosening, and there will be less understanding for the specific situation of certain countries.
Well, on the other side, we are talking about European countries. So Spain's parliament rejected the government's 2019 draft budget today, bringing the country to the brink of a snap national election. We can describe it as a critical situation because in all 191 lawmakers voted against the budget and 158 in favor, with one abstention. So here is my question. How much of an impact on the EU economy has Spain, in fact?
Well, Spain has a very large impact for a very simple reason. It is a large economy, and it's an economy which has performed relatively well. It's an economy which has introduced reforms. It is an economy which has succeeded in bringing down a considerable measure the rate of unemployment, though it still remains very high. It is an economy which has sought to be also competitive on cost. So I think the impact, in fact, if there's an immediate pass-through from the government to the economy, could be quite high. The economy is very important. The Spanish economy is extremely important because it is the, let's put it this way, Southern European economy which has performed very substantially in comparison to the others. Let us remember that Spain pays much less for borrowing than Italy. I grew up in Italy, and if anybody had told me 30 years ago that Spain would be ranked a much better credit than Italy, I would have fainted. This is a country which has accomplished miracles in 30 years and pulls a considerable amount of weight. So I think that first we have to see if there's a pass-through, and secondly, we have to see what impact is going to be. But political instability is generally not good.
Well, certainly not good because markets generally don't like instability. But on the other side, you've mentioned Italy several times, so I cannot hesitate to ask you a question because there was Italian action of 3 and 7 years BTPs, and it was actually pretty successful. I would tell you that the Italian 3-year is yielding at 1.060. It's down by 8.16%, which is actually very positive data despite the political chaos that we are having right now in Italy. So are you surprised by this good performance?
No, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. First of all, I think that the rate is still high compared to where it should be. Let's put it this way. There is a disconnect between economic size and relative performance of certain areas of Italy and what the government is actually paying for its money. That's the first thing. I am not surprised. I think there's also yield seeking in an extremely low-yielding environment by those who wish to diversify their sources, their place of investment. So I'm really not surprised. I think that there's going to be more skirmishing between Italy and the EU. I do not believe we have seen the end of this, but I believe that the more, let us put it this way, risk-oriented investors in the euro space will be looking to snap up slightly higher-yielding bonds on the assumption that we can have debt volatility, but we will not have a debt crisis. I think this is, I'm not surprised at all, but I am somewhat irked by the fact that the differentials are still that large because I personally do not believe that they reflect reality or the reality of any kind of default.
Well, very interesting. Thank you very much, Jean Ergas, Chief Economist at Tigris Financial Partners. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Welcome. Pleasure. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Well, let's have a look once again before we go for a short commercial break at the US markets. They are currently a little bit slowing down, still very good performance because they are all in the green. And as we can see, all the major sectors are in the green, which is pretty exceptional because, I mean, it's the third consecutive day that we are witnessing such a rally, but not only in the US, also in Europe. I would like to have a look at the oil prices, actually the commodity prices, because we're gonna focus now in the second part on commodities. The WTI is at $54.13 per barrel, and the Brent on the other side is at $63.62 per barrel. They are, as you can see, they are trading slightly higher. There is a reason. We are gonna talk about that in the second part of the show together with my guest, Ramis Despotis, live from Dubai. So we are going for a short commercial break, but stick around because you don't want to miss our second part of the show.
Ben ritrovati in diretta dalle Fonti TV, Forex Time.
L'analisi dei principali cambi valutari. Quali i movers della settimana in grado di influenzare euro, dollaro, sterlina, yen, cripto? Con Alex Soldati e le vostre domande da casa ai migliori analisti e operatori del settore. Forex News, da lunedì a venerdì alle 15 solo sulle Fonti TV.
Edizione straordinaria.
Nazione sta facendo impazzire il mondo
Non
del
si
trading.
conoscono ancora
E dietro tutto questo c'è l'Investing Napoli.
sta creando panico in tutto il paese.
Mamma, tieniti libera venerdì 29 marzo. Mi chiamo Tokyo, ma prima di questa storia non mi chiamavo così.
Non vi muovere!
Ti piacerebbe vedere all'opera persone che guadagnano milioni sui mercati?
Salve, sono ispettore. Con chi parlo?
Con il capo di questo evento. Cos'è questa? È carta, è solo carta. Non è niente, lo vedi?
È troppo tranquillo per essere uno squilibrato.
La trading league è un po' come spiare in senso buono cosa fa un trader bravo. Partecipano infatti i migliori con qualche esordiente, in una competizione che dura 5 giorni ed è divisa in 2 manche per determinare il vincitore, che deve essere bravo in tutto, intraday e multiday. Le performance le certifica diretta. Vince chi fa più punti, ma tu puoi guardare anche chi ha fatto più soldi in valore assoluto, oppure chi ha fatto la miglior percentuale. Puoi vedere eseguiti, statistiche e mettere i like ai tuoi preferiti. Seguirlo è gratuito, basta iscriversi. Ti aspetto e se sei bravo vieni a sfidarci.
Approfondimenti di attualità, i principali driver macroeconomici, la visione degli analisti sui mercati finanziari, l'analisi fondamentale delle small e mid cap, notizie, operazioni. Buonanotte, ordino corrente, da recuperare.
Sei in onda?
Certamente rimane il grosso enigma sul fatto.
Io sono pronta, e voi?
Che i mercati non abbiano creduto alle parole di Draghi sul procrastinarsi.
Politiche internazionali, nuovi trend, rivoluzioni sociali e tecnologiche. Con gli analisti di eToro scopriremo cosa muove i mercati. Ogni lunedì alle 14:30 solo sulle Fonti TV.
Infonox. Discover trading power, personalized forex, commodities and indices.
Since 2009, we have built a dynamic forex broker around our core principles of integrity and trust. Based in the City of London, we are regulated by the FCA and provide everything you need to trade FX. Understanding the dynamics of the forex market can be complex, yet intriguing. So if you believe you have insight into today's interlinked global economy, Forex trading is for you. All you need is Infonox trading power. At Infonox, our customer service is outstanding. Every client is assigned a personal relationship manager and treated with respect. Our technology is first class, offering an unbeatable trading experience. That's why clients recognize Infonox as their trusted and dynamic Forex broker. Talk to us. Discover a partner who enables you to trade the world.
Infonox.com, your trusted and dynamic Forex broker. Join us now.
Le Fonti TV, visibile sul sito del Sole 24 Ore. La TV dedicata ad economia, finanza e diritto entra nelle pagine web del primo quotidiano economico e finanziario tricolore. 10 ore di diretta al giorno, dalle 9 alle 18, dedicate a operatori sui mercati finanziari, consulenti, studi legali e appassionati alle vicende economiche e finanziarie. Le Fonti TV, ora anche sul sito del Sole 24 Ore.
La finanza. Dalle 12 partono i tassi di interesse, il mercato delle obbligazioni e poi si passa invece all'analisi grafica, un must nella televisione finanziaria, e poi ancora a seguire gli approfondimenti di mercato, l'analisi di quello che accade o l'analisi dei fatti della settimana, e poi a seguire le options.
La rassegna stampa di Le Fonti Legal TV, l'unico programma televisivo che ogni mese monitora il mercato legale con dossier redazionali e classifiche degli studi legali più attivi nelle principali practice: M&A, Banking and Finance, Employment, Capital Markets, Energy, IP, TMT, Media, pubblicate anche su Il Sole 24 Ore. La rassegna stampa di Le Fonti Legal TV, l'appuntamento mensile che racconta le novità del settore legale, con interviste in esclusiva, approfondimenti e dibattiti in studio. Tutte le novità legislative attraverso la rassegna televisiva di Legal, la rivista numero 1 degli avvocati diretta da Angela Maria Scullica.
La rassegna stampa di Le Fonti Legal TV, con le classifiche mensili degli studi legali più attivi sul mercato dal centro studi e dalla redazione di Le Fonti Legal, ora anche su Il Sole 24 Ore. Quali studi legali saliranno in cima alla classifica? Quali perderanno terreno? Lo scopriremo qui sulle Fonti TV. Non mancate, vi aspettiamo. E siamo tornati in diretta 9:33 per questa giornata di contrattazioni.
I principali appuntamenti economici, politici e finanziari nell'agenda internazionale, l'analisi degli specialisti, le domande dei giornalisti della nostra redazione. Ogni mattina alle 9:30 non perdete l'appuntamento con il calendario macroeconomico, solo sulle Fonti TV.
Ci rivediamo qualche minuto prima delle 11.
Ben ritrovati in diretta dalle Fonti TV Forex Time.
L'analisi dei principali cambi valutari. Quali i movers della settimana in grado di influenzare euro, dollaro, sterlina, yen, cripto? Con Alex Soldati e le vostre domande da casa ai migliori analisti e operatori del settore. Forex News, da lunedì a venerdì alle 15 solo sulle Fonti TV.
Dai forma al tuo trading. 15.000 mercati anche azioni. Piattaforme e tecnologia ai massimi livelli. Team italiano con sede a Milano. IG, tutto quello che ti serve per dar forma al tuo trading. Apri un conto su ig.com.
Good evening, welcome back to Le Fonti International. Welcome back to our second part of the show where we are going to focus on the energy stocks. But let's first have a look at the US markets. As we've seen before the break that the US stock exchanges were getting a little bit slower in their performance compared to what they were doing at the very beginning of the trading session. S&P is up by 0.24, Dow is up by 0.32, Nasdaq on the other side is trading positive by 0.17. Let's have a look at the FANGs because today, also yesterday, it's been a very positive trading session for the FANGs. Facebook is up by 0.10%. Apple is currently actually one of the very last techs that is trading slightly under the neutral territory. It's down by 0.05%. Amazon is up by 0.75%. Many deals regarding Amazon in very different sectors. Also, the CEO of Amazon is Bezos is buying an electric automatic driving, self-driving car company. We're going to talk about later this week about the acquisitions of Amazon. So Amazon is up by 0.73. Netflix on the other side is down by 0.98. So it's almost 1% negative, which is not really good performance. Google is up by 0.64. Let's have a look at Snapchat. It's rallying at 4.37%. Microsoft on the other side is up by 0.06%. I would like to have a look together with you on the banking sector because it's really important. And the other thing is that we've seen major mergers and acquisitions only in 1 week, only in 3 days differences. This is something that haven't happened to the US banks at least for more than 10 years. So it's pretty important step on for the banking sector. As we can see, JP is trading up by 0.83%, Bank of America is up by 0.42%, Goldman Sachs is up by 0.91%, and Morgan Stanley is trading up by 0.68%. Let's have a look also at the 2 very regional banks that are going to merge at the end of the second quarter of 2019. This is the Solium Capital. I want to show you BB&T Corp is down by 0.89, and SunTrust Banks is down by 0.98%. So as we can see, almost 1% in the negative territory. On the other side, let's have a look at the energy stocks because it's pretty interesting. Many things are going on there. Exxon is up by 0.58, Chevron is up by 0.31, Duke minus 0.82. And on the other side, the automotive sector, Tesla is down by 1.65, Daimler is trading up by 1.07, Ford is down by 0.53. So as we can see, the automotive sector is still not certain. It's a little bit kind of suffering. FCA is up by 1.57 after several negative trading sessions. Tata Motors is 1.85, and Nissan Motor is currently trading up by 3.49 after slashed outlook expectations for the last year. In the first part, we did not talk about the Asian stocks, but I would like to show you their closure. It's actually third consecutive day that the Asian stocks traded pretty positive. Let's start from the Chinese. The Shanghai Composite closed positive by 1.84. Hang Seng also positive by 1.16, and the Japanese Nikkei also up by 1.34. South Korean Kospi up by 0.50. As we can see, extremely good performance for the Asian stocks, especially after the super comeback of the Chinese stocks. After the Chinese Lunar New Year, let's get back to the U.S. energy stocks because yesterday they're trading a little bit better because actually oil prices are going much better right now. After yesterday, according to the report of the OPEC, it slashed production about 800,000 barrels per day in its close watch monthly oil market report. So as we can see, the major news of the day is that Saudi state energy giant Aramco aims to expand into international oil and gas exploration in the coming years, a move that will see the company compete more directly with the likes of ExxonMobil and Royal Dutch Shell. Aramco has historically stuck to producing Saudi Arabia's vast low-cost oil reserves, the world's second largest, but Saudi Energy Minister Khalid Al-Falih now confirms in an interview with the Financial Times that the company will also look overseas for oil and natural gas prospects. We are no longer going to be inward looking and focus only on monetizing the kingdom's resources, Falik told the FT. Going forward, the world is going to be Saudi Aramco's playground, which is very strong statement. Aramco will prioritize building a global natural gas business as it pushes into overseas exploration and production. All majors like Exxon and Shell are already shoring up their gas operations, particularly in Asia. The company has considered making investments in liquefied natural gas liquefied natural gas projects in the Russian Arctic and the US, according to recent news reports. Falik says Aramco is also considering opportunities in Australia, which recently topped Qatar as the world's top exporter of LNG, a form of natural gas chilled to liquid for transport by sea. Aramco has already invested in overseas refineries and petrochemicals plants. Its Motiva facility in Port Arthur, Texas, is the largest refinery in the United States. Well, so this is everything regarding Aramco. We are having some technical problems with our guest, so we're going in a short commercial break, but we are going to back in a few seconds.